brand new fitness feature from the Not Old Better Show and the American Council on Exercise. This is where science meets strength, and aging is just another word for thriving. Joining us always is Dr. Sabrena Jo, Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. She's here to break down the real research and share how movement, mindset, and motivation can help you live longer and age better. Get ready to move smarter, feel stronger, and live fully. And now, here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
Thank you, and welcome to today's show. Live Long Better, Not Old Better Show. Got a question for you right out of the gate. What if one of the best things you can do for your mood, your memory, your confidence even, and your independence does not require a gym, a stopwatch, or a brand new pair of shoes? What if it starts with standing up, taking a walk down the hall, stretching while the coffee brews, or practicing balance beside the kitchen counter? Welcome to the May Live Long Better series from the Not Old Better Show and the American Council on Exercise. Today we're talking about the mental health benefits of movement. And here's the provocative truth. After 50, movement is far more than exercise. It's a daily vote for steadiness, self-trust, sharper thinking, lower stress, and a stronger sense of possibility. Our guest, as always, is Dr. Sabrena Jo, the Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. She joins us today to reframe movement as something joyful, useful, and deeply human, not a chore, not at all a punishment, and never a test you'll have to pass. We will talk about the brain-body connection, movement after a fall, balance, and the training that goes along with that, overcoming some fear associated with that, the confidence that's generated because of that, and the small steps that can help us feel more like ourselves again. So stay with us. This is the Not Old Better Show, Live Long Better series. I'm your host, Paul Vogelzang. Sabrena Jo is going to join us momentarily. Dr. Sabrena Jo, good to talk to you always, but this is our Live Long Better interview series. And I'm excited because I am a believer in this idea of exercise and mental health, the benefits that come from it. I know you are, and we're going to talk about kind of sharper bodies and sharper minds and all of this great stuff with respect to movement after 50, but welcome to the program.
Thanks, Paul. I'm enjoying spring.
Yeah, we are here too. It's a beautiful day here, which means we get to go out and walk our dog. The summer humidity has not set in here at all, so it's lovely to be outside, and I think that also contributes to mood. And I want to talk to you about mood today because I think there's such a correlation between exercise and mood. And with your science background, we're gonna touch on some of that. But I really want to get into this idea for our audience about reframing the idea of movement so that people really do understand that, yes, it's about burning calories. Yes, it's about fitness. It's about getting stronger. Certainly, so much of exercise can drive all kinds of physical health, but there is a mental component to this. It's all about joy. I smile talking about it, but it's about memory too, and even independence. So how do we get past this idea that it's punishment or obligation, that we got to be out there?
Well, a lot of people use the word should when they think about, I really should get in a workout. I really should be doing this or that. And for anyone who knows me, they know that I usually remove the word should from my vocabulary entirely, especially when it comes to doing things that are healthy and good for us. Because for many of us, that word carries maybe decades of pressure and maybe even some mixed messaging of people telling what you should do, or just feeling guilty about not doing something that you think you should be doing. So instead, I encourage people to think of movement, specifically exercise, as a practice that helps you stay connected to your life. So movement supports your ability to do the things that matter, like getting up and down from the floor, traveling, playing with grandchildren, or getting better sleep. So it's not punishment, it's a connection to life. And from a psychological standpoint, we know that when people connect physical activity to the immediate benefits that it brings with it, like improved mood, clearer thinking, or even having more energy in the moment, they're far more likely to stick with it. So rather than asking, what do I have to do or what should I do? I suggest asking, what kind of movement would help me have a better day today?
Wonderful. I love that. That's fantastic. I like you always do talk in terms of, the should but I really like this idea of how is it going to make my day better. And I want to get into the science of this because this is such a focus for you, your work, your research, your PhD work, all that ACE does with respect to science is so impressive. So what's happening in the brain as we are out on a simple walk, engaged in a strength session? We're going to talk about balance in just a little bit, but what's going on in the brain as we're doing some of those things?
Yeah, and to my earlier point, these things I'm getting ready to talk about happen immediately. So there are these immediate benefits that people can recognize. So even in a very short bout of movement, like a 5-minute walk, there's a cascade of changes that start happening in the brain and in the body. So on the brain side, physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, which delivers oxygen and nutrients, and that helps support cognitive function or just thinking and clarity. It also stimulates the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Perhaps you've heard those as the feel-good chemicals. These help regulate mood and can also help reduce stress. And at the same time, movement helps regulate cortisol, another stress hormone that you probably heard about, our primary stress hormone, that is. So a walk or a strength training session isn't just about burning calories or getting fit. It's actively helping your nervous system shift into a more balanced state. And then there's one more thing that people may have heard about because it's pretty popular in research in the news recently. There's something called the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short. And it's just a substance that supports growth and maintenance of our brain cells. And when you're physically active, it actually increases.
I want to get back to this idea of the should, kind of the pejorative there, and talk to you a little bit about this idea that when we feel the should, there's some anxiety, there's some guilt. And so for our audience who might be feeling some of that, they might be feeling a little bit stuck. What's the best type of movement in order to just get out there and get that first step underway? Because it's that first one, it's that small one that can really cascade into so many more that can just create all of this improvement long term, but get that immediate benefit too.
I often hesitate to give people the best thing they should do, only because everyone's an individual. And if I recommend a certain physical activity, someone might have had experience with that and they already know they don't like it. So
Right.
so it's like telling you something to do that you already know you don't like. That said, really the best first step is the one that feels doable today. So for someone who's feeling anxious, low energy, or just overwhelmed, I often recommend starting with something as simple as a 5-minute walk, ideally outdoors. And I often say this because walking is a skill that most people have. Like, it's not something that you have to learn to do. It's simple. And if you can get outdoors to do it, then you get the experience of a little bit of sunlight and a little time in a green space next to nature, hopefully. And that's enough to begin shifting your mood and your physiology immediately, but it doesn't have to feel like a major task. And from a behavior change perspective, the goal really isn't intensity when we're talking about being overwhelmed and like helping with anxiety. It's really just consistency. So small, repeatable action builds your self-confidence. And then confidence is what eventually, hopefully, leads to that momentum of just sticking with something that you started. So if 5 minutes feels manageable, start there. And if it feels like too much, then make it 2 minutes. So what matters is just creating a pattern of showing up consistently.
When it comes to the physical benefits of exercise, of course, we talk about that routinely, and we're talking today a little bit about mood and the joy that comes from physical activity. Memory is associated with this same kind of degree of exercise and level of kind of fitness too, and it ties back into this point that you made earlier about independence. And so I want to ask you about the connection between regular physical activity and brain health, and this idea of focus, so that we are independent. Certainly after we turn 50.
We do have strong evidence, and it's a growing body of evidence that shows that regular physical activity is associated with better cognitive function, and that includes memory, attention, and processing speed. So how quickly that you can think of the next thing to do or react to something. And in particular, aerobic activity or cardio that supports this blood flow to the brain that I was talking about, that helps with brain health. And also resistance training has been linked to improvements in executive function. And executive function include things like planning and decision-making and multitasking. And so the point really is that it's not just one type of activity. Aerobic activity, resistance training, they all contribute to a better brain, honestly. There's also evidence suggesting that regular movement may help reduce the risk of cognitive decline over time. And so what I think is most empowering is the brain remains adaptable well into later life. We used to think that the brain was non-plastic. It was pretty non-changing once you got, in your fifth or sixth decade of life. But that notion no longer holds. Science continues to disprove that old way of thinking. So physical activity is one of the most accessible ways we can support adaptability in our brains. Everyone can do it, and it doesn't take a lot of time or effort. Like we talked about earlier, it doesn't have to be high intensity. Just moving your body can help.
What would you say to our listener who says to you, I've just been inactive for so long. I just don't think I can ever get it back into my routine, or maybe I'm just too late to the party.
No, that's the short answer. I hear
that's our lightning round right there.
I hear this often, and I want to be very clear. It is not too late. We have research showing that people in their 60s and 70s and beyond can improve their strength, balance, mobility, even aspects of cognitive function with regular physical activity. So the body responds to the stimulus that you give it. It may respond more gradually than it did, say, 25 years ago, but it does still respond. So instead of focusing on what hasn't been done in the past, I encourage people to focus on what's possible starting today. So small, consistent steps can lead to meaningful changes in how you move and how you live, and even how you perceive the process of aging. Because when you have a more positive perception of aging, then it tends to improve psychological mood, and there is some good evidence to show that it might actually make living healthier, longer possible.
Thanks for joining us today on the mental health benefits of movement. Don't go anywhere. We are just getting started, because here is where this conversation gets personal. Movement after 50 is not about chasing youth. It's about protecting your right to keep showing up for the life you still want to live. Maybe you have felt that little hesitation before stepping off a curb. Maybe a fall shook your confidence. Maybe the word exercise sounds like one more obligation in a day already full of them. Well, Dr. Sabrena Jo, is going to help us see that movement can be something much more hopeful than a workout plan. It can be a way back to trust in your body, back to steadier footing, back to brighter moods, clearer thinking, and the quiet confidence that says, I can still do this. So do not go anywhere, because coming up next, we are going to talk about fear, balance, brain health, and the small practical movements that may change how you feel today. Not someday, not after a major life overhaul, but right now. You're listening to the Not Old Better Show, Live Long Better series here in May. We'll be right back with Dr. Sabrena Jo. If you're just joining us, we are with Dr. Sabrena Jo, who is the Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise, ACE. Dr. Jo and I talk about fitness. April is our Move for Your Mind month. Mental fitness we're talking about, along with physical fitness and all these great subjects that Dr. Jo has done scientific research on. And we will have links in our show notes today so that our audience can find out more about Dr. Jo, her work, and all the work that's going on at ACE. I want to talk to you for just a second, Dr. Jo, about balance training, because it's often neglected, and it's something that really could be so simply integrated. And most people kind of think of it as though, oh, I've got to get working on my balance because, I've just fallen. But really, it's easy to incorporate it in an exercise routine all prior to that, of course. So why should balance training be integrated into this kind of healthy aging routine, just like walking and strength training is?
Well, balance is one of those things that we don't think about very much until we need it, unfortunately. But from a functional standpoint, balance is what allows you to move safely through your environment, regardless of conditions. And it's what keeps you steady when you step off a curb oddly, or turn quickly, or walk on uneven ground, which a lot of us experience every day. And as we age, balance can decline due to changes in our bodies, like strength, vision, and even sensory input. The good news is that balance is trainable. Like you said, it's simple to do, and treating balance like a regular part of your routine, not something that you just think about after perhaps you've fallen or you've lost your balance. It's one of the most practical ways to support independence over time.
I do enjoy our conversations because you always bring up these terms and practices that I think bear an important element in all of our exercise routines. And you mentioned this idea of the plastic brain earlier. I've heard you talk about that before, this idea of plasticity. That's a great subject. The other thing that I've heard you talk about, which I think flows from this idea of balance and kind of our body awareness, is the term proprioception. And I wonder if you'll define that for us and then tell us why proprioception is important in and amongst this kind of balance training, certainly as we get older.
Well, proprioception, very simply put, is your body's ability to sense where it is in space. And we have receptors in our skin, inside our joints, in our inner ear, that help us understand where our body is in space. And it's what allows you to, for example, touch your nose with your eyes closed, or step over something without looking directly down at your feet. And it's constantly giving our brains feedback about our position, movement, and force in the environment in which we're existing. And as we age, the nervous system, the feedback system, can become a little less sensitive. And that's one reason why balance and coordination may feel different over time. But like we mentioned, it's encouraging because the proprioception improves with practice. So activities that challenge your balance in a safe environment, like standing on one foot or walking heel to toe, can help retrain or at least maintain that the nervous system responsible for proprioception.
So for our audience, you may be in a personal training setting and you may hear that term proprioception. And so think about body awareness, because those are the kinds of things associated with the idea of proprioception as Dr. Jo has been describing. I wonder if you'd tell us maybe 2 or 3 kind of simple exercises that would be good, safe, balance-related exercises so that most of us who are over age 50 can begin doing them, because we can really start those right at home, and maybe couch that a little bit with what some of the safety precautions might be associated with kind of beginning a balanced training effort.
Sure. So there are a few very simple, effective exercises most people can start with. They can be done anywhere. The first one is this single leg stand. So I recommend standing near a countertop or a sturdy chair or a wall, and lift one foot off the ground and just hold it for 10 to 20 seconds and then switch sides. If you've never done this before, you might be surprised how difficult it is to hold for up to 20 seconds, but that's your goal. So just, hang in there and it will get better over time. And then if you feel like a little dizzy or like, whoa, I'm going to lose my balance, that's what the countertop or the wall is there for. You just touch it and you should regain balance pretty quickly. The second exercise would be something called the heel to toe walk. It's also called a tandem walk. So it just means that walking in a straight line where you're placing the heel of one foot directly in front of the toes of the other. So you're walking in a very narrow line, and what you're doing when you do this is you're really decreasing your base of support, which means a little bit of a harder balance challenge for your brain. So again, I would recommend walking next to a wall as you're doing this heel toe or tandem walk. And over time, it will start to get easier. And then the last one, the third one, is simply a sit to stand. You're just practicing standing up from a chair without using your hands, if possible. And this builds both strength and balance, and it builds your proprioception. Because if you think about sitting down in a chair, a lot of times it's unnerving if you're not sure you've got the leg strength and you want to make sure that the chair is there. So instead of just sitting down, you maybe are looking down, you're looking behind you, you're twisting around, you're trying to make sure that the chair is there so that you're not going to sit, onto nothing. But if you develop your strength and balance and learn to sit and stand slowly, then you can self-correct and control your descent, even if a chair happens not to be there. You're more likely to be able to stand and not have to, stumble or fall back if the chair isn't quite where you thought it was. So again, safety, like you said, safety is the key. I always recommend having a stable surface nearby for support. Wearing supportive footwear will certainly help. And starting these simple balance drills with shorter durations. And if there is any concern about falling, it might be a good idea to work with an exercise professional or physical therapist, someone who is trained in working with older adults and balance issues, because that can contribute to your confidence as well.
I think that's a good idea. I think there are an awful lot of fitness videos out online. I think for our audience, we want to make sure and get the right training, understand this terminology, understand the science, which Dr. Jo brings to us each month. And these programs are certainly well representative of all of those kinds of things. So what do we do to get our confidence back after a fall? Because I think that's also big for my audience. We've done something and we've fallen. And as a result, rebuilding our confidence about, gaining that physical awareness, understanding that proprioception and being able to kind of balance ourselves again is so important, but we don't want to put ourselves at risk either.
Well, it's completely natural after a fall to fear falling in the future. And so what typically happens with people in this situation when they don't have a good support system or people coaching them who can help with their abilities is they avoid movement altogether. Because the less they do, then there are fewer chances to fall. Like even just going out in the world and walking becomes something to fear if you're afraid of falling all the time. So we do know that avoiding movement actually increases the risk over time of more falls because it leads to deconditioning of the muscles and the proprioception and everything that goes into balance. And so the goal then after a fall is to reintroduce movement in a way that feels safe and controlled. Some of those exercises, those 3 exercises that we talked about earlier, are great ways to start. So that might mean starting with a seated or supported exercise, practicing near a stable surface, or working with a professional who can help guide your progression as you get better and better with balance. But if we're talking about a psychological aspect of this, you're rebuilding your confidence, and that comes from success. So we want to create opportunities where movement feels manageable and safe, and then gradually build from there. And again, if you're a person who experienced a fall and concerned about future falling and really want the support of someone who knows what they're doing to help build your strength in your lower extremity so that you don't fall again, I really do recommend working with someone. A great coach can do a lot.
So our theme, of course, is move for your mind. And I wonder, Dr. Jo, if you could give our listeners just one daily movement habit that would support both mind and body, what would you recommend and why?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record. But if you really are curious because you're not physically active and you spend a lot of time sedentary, but you really do want to do one thing, that one habit that will help, it would be a daily 5 to 10 minute walk. It's accessible, it requires no equipment, and it supports multiple aspects of health at once. So it supports your heart, your lungs, your mood, your cognitive clarity, and even your sleep. And importantly, it's flexible. You can do it outside, inside, alone, or with someone else. And then you can break it into shorter bouts if needed. But I will say if walking isn't your thing, movement that incorporates balance, flexibility, and strength and mindfulness like yoga, tai chi, or Pilates are wonderful opportunities. And those things also can be done in 5 to 10 minute, short, accessible bouts throughout the day. What matters most is it becomes part of your day. So something as routine as brushing your teeth, think of it like that, because when movement becomes a habit, then the benefits add up and then compound over time.
All right, Dr. Sabrena Jo, it's always so great to talk to you for our Live Long Better series. Of course, Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. We'll have links so that our audience can find out more about Dr. Jo and her work. Thank you so much for talking to us again. April is a wonderful month to be outside. All of this just lends itself to good activity, good exercise, good practice of balance, all of these wonderful things that you've been talking about today with us. Thanks, Dr. Jo. We will make sure to see you again next time, but what a great, wonderful advice that you share with us always.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Paul.
And that is our conversation with Dr. Sabrena Jo today, the Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. This is May's episode already of Live Long Better in 2026. What a reminder. Movement after 50 is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about feeling better in your own body. It is about steadier steps, calmer days, a clearer mind, a brighter mood, and the confidence to keep saying yes to life. Maybe today's episode gave you a new way to think about a walk around the block, a stretch in the morning, a few minutes of balance practice, or even just standing up during a favorite song. Small moves count. Gentle moves count. Starting again counts. And for anyone who has had a fall, felt fear, lost some momentum, or thought maybe this part of life is ahead of you, Dr. Sabrena Jo leaves us with something worth holding on to. Your body can be invited back into motion with patience, care, and joy. You can find today's story and much, much more from our Live Long Better series at notoldbetter.com. Follow us on Twitter at notoldbetter and on Instagram at notoldbetter. The Not Old Better Show Live Long interview series is a proud production of NOBS Studios in conjunction with the American Council on Exercise. I'm Paul Vogelsang. Thanks for listening. Be well. Be safe. Let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show Live Long Better series with the American Council on Exercise and Dr. Sabrena Jo. We'll be back again next time. Thank you so much. See you soon.